Hi, Patrice Lynn here. Who knew that there was an easy math formula that could predict your likelihood to change? I'm excited to tell you about the formula for change. It's brilliant. It really works to all areas of your life. So if there's a change that you want, let's say you want a new job, you want a different house, you want a better car, or maybe you just want better relationships or better health. Anything that you want, you can apply the formula for change, and you can find out how likely is it that you're actually going to change. Okay, what do the words stand for, the letters in the formula stand for? V stands for vision, D stands for dissatisfaction. So you multiply vision times dissatisfaction, and then you add the first steps that you're going to take to make a change. And all of that has to add up and be greater than resistance, whatever's holding you back from the change. So let's take a look at how this works. I'm going to tell you a story about how I moved west for the first time. I went out west between my first and second year of college, and I absolutely fell in love with the Rocky Mountains. I went with a couple people that I was in school with, and we met up with a guy that lived out there in Denver, and we went to Rocky Mountain National Park. We climbed mountains, we went camping, we went rappelling, rock climbing. We did it all, and I was just blown away by the beauty of the Rocky Mountains. And I was like, I have to live out here. What would it take for me to live out in these mountains and live this mountain lifestyle that I fell in love with in the 2 weeks that we were there? Well, what happened is I went back to college in Ohio, and right away I started talking about my new vision, and I met up with somebody that shared my vision, a girl that also had heard how great it was out west, and she wanted to move west. So together we made a pact that we were going to go west, no matter what it took. We were going to find a way. And you know, you've heard the saying, where there's a will, there's a way. Well, we found a way. So we immediately talked to our parents. They thought it was a great idea. We talked to the counselors. They thought it was a great idea. And then, lo and behold, we found out about a national student exchange program where our parents would pay in-state tuition to where we were going to school, but we would go out west, or any number of schools that we were part of this exchange. So I got to work right away, went to the library, researched everything, and unfortunately Colorado wasn't in the exchange, but we applied to 4 different schools in Oregon and Montana, and lo and behold, we got accepted at Bozeman, Montana, Montana State University. I always say that was a divine intervention because it was really the best of the schools on the list. So we ended up moving out there together, going to school, and we both loved it so much we didn't come back. We just left. We made our transition to the wild, wild west. And it was fantastic. I mean, I lived a life that many people just dream about, and I was able to live it. And it was all because of the formula for change. So let's take a look and let's put the scores in, okay? Because the vision that I had, so what that is what is it that you really want? What is the clarity that you can have, the precision you can have about what you want? And in my case, after going out there to see the Rocky Mountains and be part of it, my vision was so clear, it was so strong. So my vision was a 10. Now, dissatisfaction. Interestingly enough, I didn't even realize how dissatisfied I was with my life in Ohio and the flatlands of Ohio, because that's where my family was, that's where I grew up. But until I contrasted it with the Wild West and the majesty of the mountains and the lifestyle I could live out there, I didn't realize how dissatisfied I was. But all of a sudden, my dissatisfaction became a 10. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply 10 by 10, and that's going to give us 100. Now, what did I do to take first steps, to take action? We took massive action. I found somebody to go with. We talked to our parents, the counselors. We found a program. We found a way to do it that everybody was excited about. So our first steps were also a 10. Now, if you add 100 plus 10, you're going to get 110. What was our resistance? Resistance is the fear, the doubt, the uncertainty, anything that's a barrier to you making a change in your life. Well, our resistance, as well as the parents, the counselor, everybody was happy about it, was a big fat 0. So our resistance was a 0. So obviously 110 is greater than 0. And therefore the change was imminent for us, and it was a very powerful change in our lives. Now let's take a look at a couple other scenarios. Let's take a look at a mom, for instance, that has been a stay-at-home mom and she hasn't been in the workforce and she wants to go back to work, okay? Let's run the numbers for her. Let's say that her vision of getting back out there, you know, she kind of wanted to do it, but, you know, it wasn't too strong. Let's say it was a 3, okay? Maybe she didn't really know what to expect or what to think about what her vision could be. But her dissatisfaction was actually a 7. So we take 3 times 7, and that gives us 21. Now, her ability to take first steps and take action, let's say it was a 3, okay? So 21, 3 times 7 is 21, plus 3 equals 24. Now let's take a look at the resistance. What kind of fear did she have? What kind of things were stopping her? Well, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, her resistance and her fears were about a 6. Well, guess what? 24 is bigger than 6. And I do know a story, an exact story about somebody. This was pretty much their situation, and they were able to make the change. So in this case, the change was more a positive and imminent because this side of the equation was bigger than whatever held her back. Now let's take a look at another example. Let's say a battered wife, somebody that's living in an abusive situation. And let's say their vision is only a 1. They really can't see beyond where they are. And let's say their dissatisfaction with the fact that they are living in an abusive relationship is about a 5. You know, maybe they just can't see how it can be different. They aren't happy with it, but what happens when we multiply 1 times 5? We get 5. And let's say the first steps that this woman is going to take to get out of this situation is only a 1. Maybe she really doesn't know what to do. Maybe she's not that motivated to get out there and make a change. So now what happens? 5 plus 1 equals 6. Now this has to be greater than her fear, her doubt, her uncertainty, and whatever's holding her back. Well, in this case, her fear and uncertainty was a 10. So now we've got 6. Is it greater than 10? No, it's not. So in this case, change is likely not going to happen because there isn't enough going on. There isn't enough forward motion and momentum to make that change come about. Now it's your turn. Now you need to take a look at your own life, and you need to figure out what kind of vision do you have. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate that vision? Is it small? Is it big? Is it like my going out west vision? Was it massive 10? Or is it like this woman's situation where she really can't see beyond her situation? She's kind of stuck in her comfort zone. Maybe she isn't that dissatisfied with it, but she doesn't really have a bigger vision to draw her forward. Then you have to measure your dissatisfaction with where you are now. This right here, this dissatisfaction, is actually the key to the formula for change. 2 parts, the dissatisfaction and the resistance. Your dissatisfaction has got to become higher. Your vision's got to be big, but you've got to have a strong dissatisfaction with where you are now, or you're likely not going to change. Then you need to be able to figure out what are the first steps you need to take, and take those first steps. You can't just make a decision without the action because you're not going to move forward. So how can you increase your first steps? And then how can you decrease the resistance, the fear, the doubt, the uncertainty? The comfort zone factor is huge. So your resistance to change has got to be a low number, because if that number is high, then the chance for you making a change is really small. All right, so here we have it. the formula for change. Absolute key if you want to make any change in your life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you take it to heart. Patrice Lynn, the brain training expert. Thank you.